Hey y'all, what's up? This is Chris from Blackstone Cherry, and you're watching the Helix Hour with Eric Broadbent.
Welcome to the Helix Hour, brought to you in part by Design39 Media. Visit design39media.com for all your website, photography, and video production needs. Microphones for the Helix Hour are provided by Rode Microphones. Now, let's talk some Helix.
We're making amazing progress. In the past 60 days, 1,100 new users. It's amazing. In the past 60 days, we've had over 4,000 new posts. That means we're getting about 67 per day. In the past 60 days, we've had over 51,000 comments, which means that's about 850 per day. And when you take things like likes and reactions, in the past 60 days, we've had 76,000 reactions, and that's about 1,300 per day. So this is not a community. This is a living, breathing thing. It's like the beast out front. This is like the SVT. So for that, I would like to thank you. So thank you. So, I don't know if you can see it, there's a table out here with a bunch of junk on it. And it's really not junk. What you have are the component parts of a Helix. And when you build a product, there's something called the bill of materials. It's basically the recipe. It's how do you make a Helix. And that recipe has over 2,800 parts in it, which is really quite amazing. It's a complex thing. But if you lay the parts out on a table, it's just a little bit of plastic, a little bit of silicon, a little bit of rubber, a little bit of metal. There are some resistors and DSP and capacitors. Now, anybody who knows me knows that I'm not a musician. It's one of my great handicaps at working at Line 6. But last night I was out front at the Hilton, and the guy was throwing guitar picks out, and one hit me in the chest and almost fell in my pocket. I thought, that was pretty cool. I'll never in my life ever get to do that. But I can toss capacitors. Don't let it hit you in the eye. So it's off the bucket list now. When you take a bunch of disparate parts that, when they're separated, have no meaning, and you bring them together for a common purpose, you can get some really amazing results. They become a system. Actually, they become a community. They're a community of parts that do something when working together. Some of the parts provide support, and some of them provide strength, and some of them provide information. Just like our community. It's really great. You need all the parts to work together for it to come together as a product. If you take out, I should have saved one of them, but if you take out anything, even a 1-cent resistor, you risk that the system will not work at all. So reliance on every person and every component becomes critical to the success of our system or community. That's why when we work together, we get magic. And when these parts all come together, we get this. So why is community important? Well, it provides us with so many benefits. It makes us easily accessible. This community is not California. It's not America. We have a community that spans the entire globe. It's really quite amazing. It creates a unique identity. Now, I don't want to hear the farmer's theme, but we are Helix, right? It gives us the ability to share our thoughts, our ideas, and most importantly, it allows us to share our vulnerabilities. When people share their vulnerabilities in an environment where there's high degrees of trust, it's just an amazing thing. People rally. This community rallies to help each other. Even when somebody posts something that is not a really smart question, people are not rude. They're like, let me help you. Because when we help each other, the community gets stronger. It's really quite amazing. Most of all, it gives us great camaraderie. We become something better than us individually. We become a family. 7 months ago, my dad passed away. But he was always great for sayings and quotes, and he had 2 or 3 favorites, and one of them was, none of us is as good as all of us. I cannot think of a better quote that describes this group. Personally, I'm humbled to be part of this environment and this community. I make a personal commitment to it every night, every day, and I do it because there's genuine empathy, care, and loving, and I love being part of things like that. We at YGG in Line 6 are also grateful and thankful for everything that you do, everything that you've done, and everything I know you'll do in the future. So for that, we would like to say to you, all of the members of our team, thank you to this community. We are so grateful to you. Thank you. So I lied, not 90 minutes, but I'd now like to hand off to Frank Ritchotte, who will now give you specific examples about how this community shares, works, and takes care of itself. So for that, thank you very much. Have a wonderful time tonight, and thank you for everything that you do.
Hey guys. Thank you. I'll add my welcome to the 2nd annual Helix customer event. My voice is going, so I'm going to try to go as quickly as I can so I don't lose it. First, let me just say it's an honor to be a part of this group. It really is. I am humbled every day by what you do for each other and what you do for us. Every single day when you go on the Facebook page, you see questions, constant flow of questions, and instantly there are answers, and not just one answer, multiple answers, and people will stay with the person until they've solved their problem, whatever it is. It is really inspiring. And you help me all the time. There are too many examples to pick one, but I tried. A couple months ago, we had an artist in the UK who was about to play Wembley Stadium the next day. Had a problem with his Helix. I went on the Facebook group and asked if there were any UK members who would lend us their Helix for 2 days. And within 5 minutes, we had 5 people willing to lend us a Helix. Five people willing to lend us a Helix and drive it anywhere we needed it to be, which is just unbelievable. They didn't know who it was for, why I was asking, they just did it. And that is really what this community is about. It truly is amazing. I could go on forever about how you guys help each other and help us. But suffice it to say, the good that comes out of this group is incredible, and it's spreading. Right now there are no less than 20 dedicated Facebook groups around the world that have been started and are thriving based on this, including the original, it's 30,000 people, just to name a few: Helix Praise and Worship, Helix Peddle, Helix Poland, Helix Italy, Helix Germany. I could go on and on. I try to monitor as many as I can, but it's growing very quickly. And beyond how you take care of all of each other and our customers, you are our most valuable partner. When I say we listen to everything you say, I'm not exaggerating. Your names, your ideas come up constantly in project meetings, in sprint reviews. It is with our support team, we talk about you like your family, because you really are family. This is truly a collaboration. This group really has become part of us. Look around the booth and the signage. You're going to see names like Peter Ham, Jason Sedites, Glenn DeLune, Ben Vesco. All of these guys came from this group and are now contributing, directly to the development of the product. It's really impressive. We have members here tonight who have flown halfway around the world to be here. Johnny Lee. Yeah. Where is he? The legend. Take a bow. From the UK. We have Mr. Eric Broadbent and his son Eric Jr. from Canada. And of course, they run the Helix Hour, which is just the most entertaining show I've ever seen. I look forward to every single episode, and I'm not alone. I hear that constantly. So I won't take any more time from Eric, who you really want to hear. But let me say this. You are in great hands with Eric. With Igor, with Ben, with Sam, who you all know because they're all part of the family and on the Facebook group. They are the best I've worked with in my 25 years career, hands down. They have the same passion all of you have for making music, and they have incredible pride in the product, and all of you, its users. So thank you again, guys, and I'm going to hand it off to Mr. Klein, wherever he is. Eric Klein.
Hi, everybody.
Hi, Eric.
How's everybody doing?
Good.
Look at that, it's working. By show of hands, who owns Helix or an HX product? Good, because if you didn't, you'd be like my dog. That was just an excuse to show pictures of my dog. Okay, all right. Back to the logo. This is what people want to come to. So, no longer super secret. That's right. So I want to ask a favor of everybody really quick. Obviously, I don't think anybody in this audience is going to go, that's everything I ever wanted. I'm done. So everybody get it out of their system right now and do the aww. So you don't stare at the end when you didn't get something. All right, ready? Ready? Yeah. Am I in the way of the screen? Nope. It's actually this now. So, 280 has 8 new amp models. What? 8 new amp models. Here, I'm just going to do this. We're a wireless company. Why am I tethered like this? Here we go. We have 7 new effects models, 16 new features, and there's something significant about that number, and a bunch of other improvements that we're going to get into. So right away, so 3 channels of Fender Tweed, and this one, not everything you're going to see tonight is finished, but this one is. No, this one isn't, Sam. Where's Sam? This one isn't, but the next one is. So the Grammatico, you guys saw this. If you know anything about John Grammatico's amps, they're awesome. They're really, really cool. He lives in LaGrange, Texas. What's interesting about these two is everybody here will now be able to talk about... He lives in Austin? I thought he was in LaGrange.
That's just for effect.
So what may be interesting to some is that we have this classic Tweed, and then we have a modern interpretation of a Tweed. And so going back and forth, you'll be able to hit a foot switch and toggle between the two, and maybe embrace some of the nuances between the multiple generations of a similar type of circuit. So we thought that was a lot of fun. So there are 4 channels of this amp. This thing is awesome. We're only promising the last one for 280, and was it the Friedman where we had to split it up across multiple updates? The other 3 channels will come as well, but they'll likely be the next update. The Rev guys are awesome, by the way. Go by their booth. Super cool dudes. As this is pretty obvious. We love our bass players. I'm a bass player as well. As far as EQs, we have our Jason. This is for you. And this, well, actually, it's because of you. I mean, it's the most obvious thing in the world that somehow escaped us. And Jason's like, I'm doing this crazy trick with the crossover block because you don't have a shelving EQ. I'm like, holy crap, we don't have a shelving EQ? That's insane. So like, Sam, can we make a shelving EQ? He's like, yeah, I'll have it tomorrow. So we have another EQ as well. We have a tilt EQ. If you're not familiar with a tilt EQ, it's effectively a one knob EQ. So instead of trying to go in and if your tone is a little dark or a little bright, instead of like, oh, I'm going to mess with the presence and the treble, and now that I have to mess with the bass, it's one knob where you're effectively shifting the frequency response like this. This particular one lets you choose the crossover frequency that it's actually pivoting on. But if you think of it like a tone control, except it's very subtle, like 6 dB, you're very close. Moving on, Zen Drive, which you guys saw. This one was not leaked. We got a King of Tone. Can I tell the weird story about this, Ben?
Yeah, why not?
So we've had this model from the beginning, but the original product manager for Helix left the company and took his King of Tone, so we didn't have a chance to do the A/B listening tests. So we're like, well, oh no. And Brandon came in and reminded me that we have a King of Tone. I'm like, we do? Who do we know that has a King of Tone? And our illustrious, Jason Lynn, our graphic design manager from Austin, Texas, says, I have one, I'll bring it. So we have it. All we have to do is A/B it, and if at the most, we have to tweak it a little bit. So you guys saw this as well. It's not the V2, it's the V1, so they got that wrong. So we love our bass players. Speaking of which, we got the Scrambler, and this is my favorite. Got the Murph in. This was another one that we had in the pocket for a long time, and there were just a couple little things that we just couldn't quite finish, and now we're able to do that. So I'm going to speak really briefly about Helix Core. I don't want to get too deep because it was never meant to be a user-facing concept. However, it ties into the sheer quantity of updates we're able to provide in 2.8. So back in 2011, when we started working on Helix, we had a different team. It was a very different company. And when Helix native plugin came out, we realized to really do this justice, we needed to tweak the architecture and add some things and subtract some things and do things differently. And it went so well, we decided instead of basing HX Effects and eventually HX Stomp on the original architecture, let's base it on this new architecture, which we just call Core internally. It's not a architecture term. It's not supposed to be a thing. It's just what we say internally. The original 3 products, Helix Floor, Helix Rack/Control, and Helix LT, we called internally Power Trio. So if you hear people talking about that, that's what we're talking about. So what we had to do in the last, 9 months, Igor? Is that how long we've been working on backporting it?
I don't even want to think about it.
Yeah. So we've been taking the new architecture and then applying it to the original 3 products. The advantage here is that instead of having to code a new feature multiple times, we do it once, and barring several bugs that have to be fixed, it just magically appears in everything. So we're able to iterate and able to get features much more quickly. And quite a few of these features were done in the last week because Helix Core was finished. So it's kind of frightening. I would get pings in the middle of the night saying, this feature's done. What? This feature's done? I didn't even ask for that. So thank you, the team. The team's ridiculous. Variax string level. So on the input block, currently you can change your Variax, your model, and you can change the individual pitch of each string. You can assign those to foot switches. You can now assign the level of each string remotely from a Helix preset. This also means that because it's part of the home screen and because it's a parameter on the home screen, you can now assign string level to controllers and foot switches and expression pedals. So you could oh, I'm going to go in and swell strings 4, 5, and 6 up during the solo. Or, you know what? That one string, it's a little pokey, and instead of going and having to EQ and tweak your tone, I'm just going to drop that string down to 82%. So really, really fun. Or, oh, the verse, I'm just going to gent and remove the top 4 strings. PowerCab Plus remote over L6 link. We're going to add 2 additional pages on the output block that allows people to access all of the preset level parameters from PowerCab from Helix. So IR selection, speaker mode, that sort of thing. And again, because it's part of the preset, you can now assign that to foot switches, to controllers, to snapshots, to whatever you want. We wanted to get to this, and it was part of the big PowerCab remote story. So if you guys all remember our Dream Rig, this is the new Dream Rig. So in a similar vein, it's done very differently from the way L6 Link and DT and Pod work. You can actually use, again, the output block as a remote control for all of the analog topology parameters in the DTs. So you can actually change from Class A to Class AB in the tube section of the amp remotely. And again, they can be assigned to snapshots or foot switches or be recalled with presets. So that's why we're calling it the Missed Connections Update, because we missed connecting this to Helix, and we missed connecting PowerCab to Helix. We missed being able to do the string volume with Helix and that sort of thing. Next. So pedal edit mode. Not enough people use pedal edit mode. You can edit your presets with your feet, people. Except you haven't been able to edit your input and output parameters. And now that we have all these new input and output parameters like Variax and PowerCab and DT, you can now edit that stuff with your feet while you're playing. Which means that instead of having to go pling, pling, oh, that high E is a little low, you go pling, pling, perfect, save. Right? So we've added momentary control to amp control, CC toggle, and CV toggle. So if you want to switch channels on your amp and then switch back by letting go, you can. This is kind of cool if you're a snapshot guy and you really want snapshots to not be controlled by, or you want blocks to not be controlled by snapshots. I want this always on, or I want to be able to manually turn it off. I don't want snapshot to control it. You can now do that on a per block basis. As an extra bonus, some people have said, well, wait, I want to add a block, but now I have to turn it off in every snapshot. As a bonus, what happens is, if you just turn snapshot bypass off, turn it back on, now it's off in every snapshot. So that's our weird little side thing. This is kind of cool. There's a new global preference. Currently, if you happen to press the currently loaded snapshot switch, it reloads the state that was stored with that snapshot. Now you can instead have it so the same snapshot switch will toggle between it and the previous loaded snapshot. So if you have snapshot 1 and snapshot 7, one switch will just toggle between the two of them instead of having to tap dance all over the place. You can now swap bank up and down. Some people say, I really want to do next bank on the bottom. Now you can. There's a global setting for it, or just like swapping any other 2 switches, you can hold the 2 bank switches, hit yes, and it'll swap them. HX Stomp and HX Effects have this feature where you can choose to focus the parameters by either touching or pressing the switch. Power Trio does not. Now they do. So if you press a switch, it'll select the block. When you move the expression pedal, it now tells you the position of the expression pedal, whether you're on EXP1 or 2. Thank you, Igor. If you happen to tap tempo, you get the BPM and the expression in the scribble strip. Pet feature. It's obvious now, it's not a surprise. This is something I've been bugging the organization to do for years and years and years and years. Igor got it working. Well, Igor and Kevin Duca are another one of our system architects got it working. Well, mostly Kim. I didn't know if it was going to work. Got it working in the Batcave about an hour ago, and it's so cool. It is so cool. All right, you ready? So I've been controlling this entire keynote with my feet, by the way. Right? So, well, what I want to do is I'm going to escape out of keynote. I'm going to maybe switch to YouTube. I'm going to play Paul Hindmarsh's video. Holy crap, that's fast. Let me slow him down. All right, cool. All right, I think I got it. Let me speed him up. My guitar's too loud. Let me turn him up so I can hear him a little bit better. Oh, now he's too loud. Oh, wait, I missed that part. Let me go back a little bit. All right, I'm done. So I'm going to switch back to my keynote, go to full screen. So the point of this is that any foot switch in Helix, or if you assign it to an instant command in the command center and then recall a snapshot, can spit out any key command to your computer. So your computer will see Helix as a keyboard. So PowerPoint is a funny whatever kind of thing. The obvious application would be a DAW. So if you're in the studio and you don't have an engineer sitting in the mix position, you can sit here, oh, that take sucked. Delete, go back, restart. Nope, sucked. Delete, restart. So now, it's not just DAWs, it's not just PowerPoint, it's literally every piece of Mac and PC software that has a keyboard shortcut can now be controlled from Helix. So I want everybody to say, take that line 6, Eric was right. Ready? 1, 2, 3.
Take that line 6, Eric was right.
Thank you. Oh, I was supposed to do the show and tell thing. All right. So HX Unity for Helix Native, what this does is this allows all Helix and HX products to effectively be share presets. So that doesn't mean that you can get amps into HX effects. It doesn't mean that HX Stomp gets more than 6 blocks yet. What it does mean is that instead of having to individually copy blocks over and then lose your snapshot information and that sort of stuff, if you want to take a Helix preset and it's 6 blocks or fewer, you can drag it straight into HX Stomp window. If you happen to have a Helix preset that has 9 effects and it spans over to the other one, you can drag it straight into an HX effects preset. So the promise of the studio to stage and the fact that we have HX Stomp users here and HX Effects users and plugin users, we want you guys to be able to share stuff back and forth, and that's really, really important, both in studio, to stage, and back, and so that's HX Unity. And the way this works is via hardware compatibility modes. So in the plugin, you can turn Helix Native into whatever hardware you happen to have. So if you have HX Stomp, it will have all the HX Stomp presets in the plugin. So you can say, I have an HX Stomp, done, and now the signal flow is HX Stomp's signal flow. Likewise with HX Effects. And the preset list will populate with all of the factory presets from HX Stomp, and the model list will then reflect the model list of that particular SKU. So there are some obvious caveats. So if you drag something in, and it's like, oh, sorry, this isn't going to work. It'll tell you at least. And so you're like, okay, let me delete this thing. Now it works. The other big thing for somebody like myself, who's a big studio guy, the main product I use is Helix Native. So I have Helix Rack as a front end to go into Logic, but you can now turn off hardware compatibility mode, which means now the amount of blocks that you can use in the plugin is now limited by your computer and not by our arbitrary limit. So if you wanted to run 32 amps in a row and your brand new $8,000 iMac Pro lets you do it, you do you. Undo, redo in Helix Native. Right now I think it's 32 steps, don't quote me. Crap, I'm on video. And this is something that was always kind of hinted. Helix Native is now $99 for everybody. HX Stomp, HX Effects, Helix LT, Helix Floor, Helix Rack. And again, this is important because we want you guys to share presets. We want you guys to be able to make songs without the hardware connected, We want you guys to make music, and they want it to be, it's not just a family of you guys, but it's a family of products. And everybody has different products or different groups of products, and we don't want to have to make a huge pain to be able to share stuff. Some minor improvements. So we have the little dots that tell you the pages. HX Stomp, you notice, has a little scroll bar. It does that, and there's a big reason we wanted to do that, and now the IR blocks now display as many characters as will fit, and the last 5 characters will always be visible, so you know which cabinet or distance or whatever is part of it. You can now access next and previous snapshots via new MIDI CC values, which was HX Stomp. So you're seeing a lot of stuff that we designed for HX Stomp now works in the old stuff. You'll see that sort of a theme this evening. You know, you can Pac-Man from the output block over to the input block, works up and down, and now on the save screen, you don't have to go all the way back to the beginning, you can just go over. Like little things, but they all speed up production. Boot screen has a progress bar. Is there anything else? Oh, one more thing. Yeah, copy and pasting all commands now has the custom labels. So, and there's actually probably another dozen or so smaller things that weren't necessarily worth mentioning, and I'm sure there'll be some surprises as well because we're talking this spring, so not next week, so we still have a couple months to wait, but that's 280. I would say any questions, but I'm not going to answer any questions. I'm just going to grab my beer and pass it on to who's next.
Can you turn that shirt down?
I can't. It only has one color all the way. So I just want to say a few words here. We sometimes forget that we lost in the tech specs and everything, that music is about bringing people together. So our group was created with that as a very first thought. So we decided that we would be the most friendly group on the internet, and that this would be a place where new users could come and ask questions and get cheerfully answered, no matter how many times that question was asked. We would be the frontline tech support, so that folks would come to us and first and get their questions answered with kindness and consideration. And it turns out that that was an industry first, and it worked very well. We are about at 18,100 and change members, and our philosophy has influenced many other groups through the industry, and that sometimes that's something that we all can be proud of, all of us, right? We have become an important component of the Helix, just as important as any button or any knob. The ability to interact with and create real friendships and actually be a family is beyond any expectation we had when we started this 3 years ago. None of this would be possible without an absolute partnership between the Helix user group and Line 6, the great people at Line 6. Let's give them a round of applause. We have supported each other along the way, cared about each other, brought together by a love of music and of being the absolute best we can be together. And none of us would have this been possible without the wonderful brothers and sisters from the Line 6 Helix family group and from the fantastic folks from Line 6. Thank you all for being my friend.
I'm truly honored by the founding father thing. I kind of speechless a little bit. As you know, that's not usually the case. So, first off, I really wanted to thank Line 6 and Joe and Frank and Eric and the team. And the thing is, what's really important about it is the authentic family. See, part of the name is family. And that's really the important key. And it's about how we treat each other. We want to treat each other like brothers and sisters. And yes, brothers and sisters can get on each other's nerves sometimes. So it's about forgiveness. It's about all these things that brings us together as a family over a wonderful piece of gear. So, so I'll be authentic. It's a little emotional. It's been a 3.5 year journey for me, And I still remember about a week after I started the group, and that I did a 7-hour horrible live stream, I still remember this picture. My hand was showing on the screen at the Line 6 headquarters. They were watching my live stream in their whole group, and they all took pictures, and I had my hand up on the screen. And this was back when the Helix launched. And from that point forward, it's been my mission to treat each and every one of you like a family. So thank you.
Thank you, guys.